This video is advanced coverages for plumbers. It's going to build off of Plumbers Insurance 101 and get into some of the more advanced coverages that are either for more complex operations or larger operations. So let's get into it. For number 7, we're going to talk about pollution liability, which is if something gets into the ground that wasn't supposed to be there. It can be chemicals, it can be gas, it can be oil, it can be anything that got into the dirt that wasn't supposed to be there. So let's say you're working on a gas line and there's an explosion. Your general liability insurance is going to be protecting you for the property damage that was caused. But let's say as part of that explosion, a lot of gas seeped into the ground. And now you're having to pay for remediation work. Well, that is property damage, but most liability policies exclude pollution. And the way they define pollution is anything that gets in the ground that's not supposed to be there. So now we're dealing with a gray area, and everybody hates gray areas in insurance. Don't play with gray. That's when everybody gets mad. Yourself, brokers, underwriters, everybody. So pollution liability, if you're dealing with any type of chemicals or anything that can be considered a pollutant, you really need to strongly consider this. Number 8, professional liability, errors and omissions. This is really for design and build type of contractors. If you are helping to design a space and then after the fact, somebody comes back and says, well, you designed that improperly and now the plumbing doesn't work and I've got leaks and I've got gas leaks and the HVAC doesn't work and this is all your fault because you did the design work. That's professional liability. We're getting outside of general liability, which is bodily injury and property damage. You hurt somebody, you broke something. Professional liability is you made a mistake. You neglected to do something. You didn't follow through on what you said you would do. It is a wrongful act in terms of making a mistake and failing to provide a professional service you said you would provide. Not everybody needs this. It really depends on what type of work you're doing. Number 9, installation floater. So if you're doing really big jobs, you're going to have to buy large amounts of equipment. You may need to transport it from one place to the job site. And while it's being transported, there may be a question of who owns it. So if you're buying the equipment and the client is not accepting ownership until it has been moved to the job site and installed, that means you own the equipment from the time you bought it to when it's been installed. That is why you need what's called an installation floater. So if you're buying $250,000 of piping and while it's being transported to the job site, the truck tips over, that piping may be no good anymore, which is why you need that coverage, especially if you're working on bigger jobs. Number 10, this is one of everyone's favorites and or least favorite, employment practices liability insurance. So when you start to hire a lot of people, you start to have people problems. And then people come back and say that, hey, you fired me or you didn't hire me because I'm gay, black, white, transgender, Latino, Republican, Democrat, whatever, right? The only people in America that are not protected employees are white males under the age of 40. And one of the most common things I'll hear people say is, well, hey, Maryland's an at-will state. I can fire people whenever I feel like it. And that's true. And that person can sue you for any reason, which is why you need employment practices liability insurance for when that person comes back and has some crazy claim, even though you documented all your files about, no, they didn't show up to work on time. They showed up drunk. They showed up high. They didn't do a good job. They didn't weld that pipe correctly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they come back and say, well, no, you fired me because I'm black. That's what happens in the real world. And employment practices attorneys cost $500 an hour. They're very expensive. You'll end up burning a hole in your pocket real fast. So, last one, number 11. I don't know how to do that. Cyber liability insurance. So cyber liability pays for damages that happen as a result of a data breach, either in your system or If somebody gets through one of your employees into one of your GC systems, it's going to pay for credit monitoring services and damages that happen as a result of the breach. Now, equally important for you to think about is how are you going to do business if your systems are brought down? This is something you've got to work out in advance, probably with some type of managed IT service provider that's going to help you figure out how you keep people on the job site, how you keep them working, because you can lay pipe without computer systems, but you've got to have a plan on how you're going to do it. And so it can be very, very disruptive when a threat actor brings your system down. They are targeting small to medium sized businesses because your defenses aren't as strong. Make sure you have strong IT practices in place to prevent it, but also consider cyber liability insurance that can pay for the ransomware attack, that can pay for the damages, that can pay to recreate your data to mitigate the damage to your business. Thanks for watching the whole way through this video. If you've got questions about your program and you want to talk to me about it, my contact information is in the description. If it was helpful, please hit like and subscribe. It helps people like you find my content. And if you got questions, drop them in the comments. Above all, thank you so much for watching, and please go build something great.